Hello everyone, my name is Noah Hansen. I'm coming to you from the top of Observatory Hill. It's just 15 minutes outside of my hometown, and it's one of my favorite spots to enjoy a good view and also play some guitar, so I got my guitar with me. Now I wanted to make this quick short video to continue my spiritual life coaching series on A New Way with Noah, my YouTube channel, and to let you know something that's deeply changed my life in my sense of spirituality and what is existing in the spiritual realm. So this is one thing that first of all, to pre-state it, I do not judge people when they have this mindset. I do not think that like you're going to hell or anything if you have this mindset, but I do urge you to take my advice seriously in this video, because it just has deeply improved my relationship with spirit. It's deeply improved my understanding of the reality we live in, how to navigate it properly when it comes to spirituality, and what has literally enhanced every aspect of my life spiritually. So this is it, everyone. Have you ever come across the mindset or been in the mindset? I know I have for several years, where you look to the figure of Jesus Christ and you say, oh yes, I trust that he was a real prophet, or I trust that he was a real spiritual leader, a real teacher, a real sage or mentor of many people. But his teachings have been corrupted, and you can no longer really take the writings that were recorded to have been his teachings accurately or seriously. You can't take them seriously anymore, because I don't believe that they are accurate. You know, you hear all sorts of things, even in some college, they still teach, and I don't believe they can anymore, but I'm sure it's still happening somewhere, where they teach, for example, one thing that I subscribed to and I believed in for a long time was that in the 3rd century, 300 AD, there was a council called the Council of Nicaea. And I believed that the story that some professors and some institutions have taught, the lie that during that council, they basically put together the Bible canon. They decided upon what books to keep in and what books to take out. Well, it's interesting because this is a blatant lie. It's not at all what went down during the Council of Nicaea. What they were deciding upon, rather, was whether to allow the Arian mindset or worldview about Jesus to continue, or to put it to death, basically to cancel it out. And that idea was that Jesus, though he's the Son of God, he is not one with the Father. He's not one with God. Now this blatantly contradicts what Jesus actually taught, as recorded accurately in the 1st century in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Now, we can trust those documents are accurate because we just have so much manuscript evidence. We have so much archaeological evidence. We have so much first-person testimony to state that, these are the accurately recorded teachings of Jesus. And they haven't been corrupted over time. They weren't corrupted in the 3rd century. They were never corrupted, besides for some minor changes that actually add stories in, such as the woman who's caught in adultery and the Pharisees are trying to stone this woman. Now, that story was seemingly added because it doesn't show up in early manuscripts. It shows up a little bit later in the manuscripts. So that means someone either added this later on, or someone decided that they needed to include this, so they added to the canon. So that story doesn't actually change anything about what Jesus taught or the worldview that he presented. So in all honesty, what is that going to change? Well, it doesn't change anything. It's actually a beautiful story about Jesus. He, if you don't know the story, he basically tells the Pharisees that the first person to throw the stone should be without sin, and none of them, could say that they were without sin, so they all dropped their stones and walked away. And he says that, your enemies don't condemn you, neither do I. So beautiful story about Jesus. It doesn't really change anything. It's obviously not a ploy of some world power to be able to pervert the Gospels with, because it's actually advocating for women's rights and for the treatment of sinful people in a respectful manner. So it doesn't add anything bad into the canon. Now, most of everything that we have in those Gospels are accurately recorded and are consistent from the 1st century all the way up, without change or without corruption. And this goes all the way back to the time before the Roman Empire accepted Christianity. It's when Christians were being persecuted and killed for their faith. So there's no ploy to be able to change Jesus's teachings for power. These people didn't have the power, that they weren't fighting the powers that be to get a new empire in place. That wasn't the Christian's job. The Christian's job actually was to revolutionarily change and radically change people's understanding of God and faith in Christ, so that they could have freedom and that we could have equality between not only women and men, but all ethnicities and men, even slaves and slave owners. They were now called equal. So it did away with, it was a foundation for doing away with slavery, for doing away with unequal rights for women. And also it was the foundation for treating children as humans of value as well. So when I say that, don't just subscribe to the worldview that, yeah, Jesus was a great teacher, but I can't take anything that he says or it's recorded in his Gospels seriously because they've been corrupted. No, if you actually study the subject, they have not been corrupted, and we actually have the historically accurate teachings of Jesus. And if every Christian leader in this world were to actually read and take seriously the words of Jesus and read in context, which is extremely important, read it in the context of the time it was written 2,000 years ago in Palestine. And then you'll see a lot of profound and amazing ethical teachings. Actually, the most profound ethical teachings, there's a professor at Harvard named Robert Cole who quoted this about Jesus. He said that every ethical teaching of the last 2,000 years are just footnotes to the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus presented most of his ethical teachings all in one go. And it's a beautiful quote by this man, because he is very studied in this area, in ethics. He's a professor of psychology. And so for a professor of psychology at Harvard to be able to say that every ethical teaching of the last 2,000 years are just footnotes to the Sermon on the Mount, he's basically pointing out that Jesus put such a high ethical standard on humans that every ethical teaching are just, a trickle down from that. So he's an ethical genius is what that means. He's an ethical genius, and his ethical genius teachings are recorded accurately in the gospel. So don't just say he was a profound and great teacher. Actually read what he said and apply it to your life. And trust me, my life changed forever in my relationship with Spirit once I found out who Jesus is, who he said he was, and what he actually came here to do. And I hope you'll find that as well.